Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. We're just going to allow a couple of more minutes for people to join in, and then we'll start the workshop at 12 p.m. sharp. Just a quick reminder to please keep your mics and cameras off throughout the session. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, wait till the end of the workshop, or just put it in the chat box. Thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. Today's workshop is called Thought Traffic Jam, and it's about understanding cognitive dissonance. My name is Sanya. I'll be your host today. So, just a little bit about myself. I work here at MindTribe under the guidance of Dr. Prerna Kohli as a junior psychologist. My educational background is that I have a master's of science in psychological therapies and a master's of counseling as well. The areas that I usually work in or are my specialities, you can say, are anxiety, trauma, emotional regulation, grief work, and all other kind of walks of life. Clients come to me, and my space is quite person-centered, and I let my clients take the wheel for our sessions and see how the treatment plan is going to be. So I'll just quickly hand over to Ahil, who's our workshop's co-host today.
Right. Thank you for the introduction, Sanya. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's workshop. My name is Ahil Bose, and I'm a junior psychologist here at MindTribe. So my education background is I've done a master's in applied psychology, and my specialties include anxiety, depression, OCD, self-esteem, emotional regulation, and whatnot. So I work with these areas especially, and I strive to provide the best experience my clients can have. So that's it about me. And next slide, please. Right. So before we start the workshop, let's go over a few ground rules so that we can ensure a smooth experience for everybody present here. So the first one is, if you have any questions during the workshop while the workshop is ongoing, please make sure that you raise your hands to ask questions. If you have any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself and then talk, Or if you are not comfortable with that, you can definitely drop your questions in the chat box. If by any chance your questions are missed, we can ensure you that it will be addressed by the end of the workshop. And like I said, keep your cameras and mics off, and please let's be respectful, and let's keep the flow of the workshop intact so that we all have a good experience. And since this workshop is a part of MindTribe, any type of screen recording or screen shot taking is prohibited. So yeah, these are a few ground rules. If someone has any question, make sure you unmute yourself and speak, or you can drop in the chat. So now we'll start off with the workshop. I hope you all have a good experience, and I'll hand it over to our host, Sanya.
Thank you so much, Ahil. So before we kick things off, just a quick disclaimer. Some topics that will be discussed today can be emotionally triggering for people, as we are going to talk about a lot of value work and emotional and psychological discomfort that people might feel. So at any time, if it's getting too much, please take a step away, take a breath, or you can also leave the workshop. A recording of it will be uploaded on YouTube later, so it's not like you're going to miss it. And if you're feeling distressed during or after workshop, please, we encourage you to reach out to us at MindTribe, and you can book a one-to-one session to explore the problem and the discomfort that you're feeling today a little bit better. All right, so just a quick look at our agenda today. So we go through the introduction of what cognitive dissonance is. We look at how it shows up, what it impacts on our life and our thought processes are, what are the main causes of it, then a quick ad break. Then we have the symptoms and signs that show up when you are experiencing cognitive dissonance. We'll also look at some of the techniques that you can use to overcome it. And then we'll also kind of delve into a quick mindfulness activity to kind of calm ourselves after this workshop. As I mentioned, might be triggering for a few people if in case you've experienced this and have not had a chance to process it or talk about it with anybody else. Okay, so a quick question first. Have you ever experienced where you've said one thing but done another? You can answer yes or no in the chat, or a thumbs up or a thumbs down works as well. I see thumbs ups. I see yes. Prachi says yes. I see a lot of thumbs up coming out. Okay. Thank you. Oh, Mayuri says yes as well. Thank you for sharing. So what is cognitive dissonance? Let's dive into it now. So the theory was first introduced by psychologist Leon Fischinger in 1950s. Fischinger suggested that as human beings, we all have a natural drive for internal consistency. So what is internal consistency? It means that we want our beliefs, values, and behaviors to match each other. And in cases when these don't match up with each other, when we have conflicting thoughts or we have conflicting beliefs or attitudes towards something, what we start experiencing is called cognitive dissonance. This dissonance does not just feel like a minor inconvenience in your life. It creates psychological discomfort. And of course, we don't like being in the discomfort. So we are motivated to find ways to either reduce it by either changing our beliefs, altering our behaviors, or justifying why we're doing the actions that are against our beliefs. So in a sense, we can see that cognitive dissonance is a kind of mental tension that we feel when our mind is in conflict with itself only. So let's see a little bit about bringing it closer to home and look at some examples of how cognitive dissonance plays out in our own Indian cultural context. So one of the most common situations I feel like we've all faced at some point revolves around the value of respecting elders. We are taught from childhood to obey and honor them, and sometimes we experience that the elders hold on to outdated traditions that are not in line with or clash a little with the modern thinking that we might hold today. So one of the examples can be if you're questioning a practice that they have and then they feel that they're being disrespected you feel that you're being disrespectful towards them, but you still feel that blindly following the outdated decision may feel dishonest to your own values that you hold. That tension that you start feeling, the pulling from both the direction, is what is called cognitive dissonance. So we can look at another example in gender equality. Many of us proudly support equality in school, workplace, and public life. Yet at home, sometimes we might have witnessed subtle or overt discrimination, as daughter-in-laws are expected to handle most housework, while sons might be excused, or if they are expected to quit their job and stay at home after marriage, whereas the same expectations not seen in the sons. Well, we feel torn between our belief and the fairness that we see in the reality that is around us. Another really good example of this can be thinking about festivals and fireworks. We all celebrate Diwali every year, and majority of people do celebrate it with crackers. It's joyful, colorful, and also has now become a tradition to burst crackers at Diwali, right? So at the same time, we also see on a daily basis, like we're seeing how there's so much rain these days, and it's a direct impact of global warming. So we are aware of the environmental damage that might be doing. It also produces noise pollution, air pollution, and health hazards for people who have asthma. But again, if we want to align ourselves with our cultural enjoyment, the crackers are a necessary part. So the cultural enjoyment part and our ecological responsibility are colliding and are in conflict with each other here. So in each of these cases, we have seen that the discomfort we feel, or the unease, as we can say, that's inside us, is the cognitive dissonance. And how we resolve it is usually whether by changing, justifying, or compromising. It shapes both our choices and our future peace of mind. So a quick reflective question here then, now that we've discussed what cognitive dissonance is and what might it look like. Have any of you experienced this before, and how did it make you feel? You can type it out in the chat box. If you want to just answer it in emojis, you can give a thumbs up if you've experienced it. And then if any of the emojis align with how you felt, you can do that as well. She says, I did. Kanvi is also expressing herself. More thumbs up. I'll also share a personal experience. We had a family dog for a lot of years. And before we had her, we used to burst crackers as well. But after we got our dog, we realized that she was really scared of the noise that comes by the crackers during Diwali. So from that point on, we did stop bursting crackers because we valued her safety. But we did get a lot of questions from people around that lived around us, that why would you do that? And it kind of showed us that there's a sense of expectation that we need to do it because of cultural expectations, but it would be against our value as we were caring for our dog. So that is also a prime example of it. Okay, then let's quickly move forward. Now we'll look at some of the impacts of cognitive dissonance. So before we start delving into the areas that it impacts, we also need to see the kind of impact it has on our mind, which is very important here because the whole concept of this is that your mind is fighting with itself. So we need to kind of unload and unlock how the mind does fight with itself. So first we look at cognitive elements. So what are cognitive elements? There are beliefs, our values, our attitudes, and identifying them is very important because that will tell you which thoughts and beliefs that are in conflict, which is causing the dissonance. Then once you're able to identify them, it might look like I value health versus I smoke cigarettes. I believe in gender equality and I stay silent when I see bias, or something more menial that we see day to day in our lives, which is I want to save money, but I spend on expensive brands. So This mismatch is the starting point of the dissonance in somebody. So when people start feeling this discomfort, they naturally want to reduce it. So this is the discomfort is called the dissonance reaction. So in this, we are experiencing the mental discomfort. That is the uneasy, restless feeling when our actions don't match what we truly believe in. So, like we said, one example is someone who values honesty but tells a small little lie, but then you start feeling anxious and guilty about telling the lie because honesty is really important to you. This usually leads to stress and confusion. The inner conflict doesn't just stay in the mind, it starts affecting your mood, your decision making, and even seep into your relationships. People start to overthink or kind of feel stuck in the way in their life because both sides that are in conflict are important, which is a very I just said important, but this is a very important part of cognitive dissonance. The reason why the discomfort happens is because you value both. That's why you're at fights and at odds with yourself. So what do people then do in this situation? Then we move on to the resolution attempts. So over time, if you have this dissonance and you have the uncomfort and it's not getting resolved, it starts impacting our well-being and self-image. We are repeatedly reminded that we act against our own core values that makes us feel helpless, hypocritical, and a little bit disconnected from what our true values and true self is. And usually what people do, as we've discussed, is they try to change their behavior to match their belief, or they also in some situation, if they can't do that, they try to adjust the beliefs instead to match the situation. And sometimes, which helps momentarily but is not long lasting, is people will try to justify or rationalize the behavior. So you hear yourself sometimes saying, everyone does it, it's not such a big deal, I can get through it right now. So looking at all this in simple terms, cognitive dissonance pushes us toward a resolution attempt, right? So in some way, we make our inner conflict feel lighter. Like I said, even if it's not a long-term or perfect solution. So this is kind of a chain reaction that sets off. First, you identify the conflict, then you feel the discomfort, and then you naturally move into the resolution. The interesting part in some of the examples that I've given is the resolution doesn't always bring us closer to the truth, right? It often brings us closer to comfort, that you want to decrease the discomfort that you're feeling. That's why some people will sometimes stick with unhealthy or inconsistent choices and just simply reduce the dissonance in the moment, but not really go ahead and take drastic steps to change it. Somebody said something in the chat. One second. Prachi says, if someone feels disconnected and detached from the surrounding despite having these. Yes, they do feel disconnected and detached. Yes, because you're not kind of living your whole truth. So it kind of feel like you're being fake sometimes. But then it depends on which decision you take to change the dissonance that you're feeling. Okay, so let's look at the 4 main areas of our life that dissonance impacts the most in our daily life. So we'll look at relationships, lifestyle choices, our work and our values, and then the last one is morality and ethics. So now we'll just kind of go one by one and discuss each one of them. So let's look at relationships. One of the most prime way that dissonance come in relationships is staying in toxic relationship versus the self-worth of the person. So imagine someone who truly believes that they deserve love, respect, and emotional safety, but in reality, they're staying in a relationship where they feel hurt, dismissed, or devalued on a daily basis. So here, if you look at which cognitive elements are in conflict, it's between the beliefs I deserve respect and then their action that I'm staying in this relationship where I'm not getting any respect. And that starts creating a deep mental discomfort. This often shows up as anxiety. There's a lot of self-doubt or even rationalizations that goes on here. People might think things like, oh, they're like this because they had a bad childhood, or at least I'm not alone. Or sometimes they might also rationalize with, well, everyone goes through this at some point in their life. Then in a situation like this, as we've discussed, you either change the belief, justify the behavior, or change the behavior to resolve it. It can sometimes look like this. Some may change their beliefs by convincing themselves that they don't deserve more. They don't deserve somebody who takes care of them or somebody who respects them a lot, which does in turn hurts their self esteem. Then in the other one, they might justify the situation by normalizing it. All relationships are hard. Everybody must go through this at some point. But the hardest way to kind of get out of this dissonance and the healthiest path that is changing our behavior. So this would involve them choosing to step away and protect their self-worth. Yes, Kanvi, a lot of blame game does happen in situations like this. So next, let's see how this can be represented in our work life. So one of the main reasons or situations where this happens is when one's values get misaligned with the job role they're currently in. So here we picture someone who wants their work to be meaningful, creative, and ethical, but they're stuck in a role that makes their work feel meaningless or even goes against their values. One example that I can think of, if anybody here has seen How I Met Your Mother, where Marshall wants to be an environmental lawyer, but kind of ends up in a corporate job and it is against his values. So he feels a lot of cognitive dissonance and discomfort in the series. So this happens because it creates dissonance with their inner belief. They want the more meaningful and ethical work, but doesn't match their outer reality, which is that their job doesn't reflect that. The reaction here often looks frustration. This is the kind of situation where professionals feel a lot of burnout or you're just disengaged from their job. You've probably heard someone say that I'm just here for the paycheck, or it's soul crushing, but I need the money, so I'm just going to keep doing this work. In this situation, some people can then change their beliefs. They think maybe meaningful work is just a luxury, only a few people get to do it. Or they'll try and justify the behavior where it's about, I need this for my family, or I need this money for rent, so I'm going to stay with this job. But again, as we have discussed, a long-term alignment often comes from changing behavior, which is the hardest one to do. So you can seek a new role, pursue side projects that align with your values, or gradually shift your career that matches your values better. Now let's look at lifestyle. Oh, sorry, just give me a. Yes, sorry about that. So now let's look at lifestyle, and what the kind of situation that dissonance shows up the most is when your habits are colliding with your health values. Lifestyle habits, as we know, are something that affect our everyday source of decisions, and that's why it's something that the dissonance that comes from here can be everyday. So here we can think of someone who values health and says, I want to live a long, active, healthy life, but their actions are inconsistent constantly. They're smoking, eating poorly, or avoiding exercise, or indulging in harmful behaviors. The dissonance reaction in this instance is usually guilt or shame, but there's also defensiveness. They might minimize this by saying, I'll quit someday, or I'll start from tomorrow, or eating unhealthy once in a day is not that harmful. And then we move to how people cope in this situation. Then some have to shift their beliefs, where they might say plenty of people smoke and still live long lives, or plenty of people eat unhealthily and still live long lives. They also might justify the habits that I'm too stressed to stop right now. And I might do it after that I see a permanent change in my life, or something in the situation is making me do it. So once I'm out of the situation, I'll stop doing it. But the harder and the healthiest resolution, of course, is changing the behavior. So it's gradually adopting habits that line up with their value of health and the focus that they put on it. Got something in the chat. Prachi says, I feel like my brain questions too much and wants a clear answer. Yes, Prachi, we'll go into the techniques towards the end that might help you sort your thoughts out a little bit more and see how you'll be able to get a clear answer. Can we say starting tomorrow is permanent? I can lose weight. No, I have thyroid blaming problem. Yes, that's the prime example that you have a reason for why you're doing the behavior, so you go on and justify them. And lastly, a little bit about morality and ethics. So it's about just the big questions where there is guilt over actions that conflict with your beliefs. So most of us hold values like honesty, kindness, fairness, respect. But at times we might act in ways that contradict those values. Maybe in a situation where you lied, you hurt somebody, you acted selfishly, or you made a decision that might go against what you truly believe in. And then a prime example of this can also be, I believe in honesty and fairness, but then you did something that goes against that, like we discussed. Reactions in this is usually heavy guilt, self-blame, or denial, because these are your core values that you go against. So the discomfort is quite pronounced and quite big. And to cope, sometimes people lower the standards. So everybody lies sometimes. You don't hold yourself to the ethical expectation or level you put yourself to, but kind of generalize that everyone does it, so it's fine if I do it once or twice. You can also justify the actions in situations like we're discussing. Sometimes you have no choice. You had to be, you had to lie to protect somebody, or you hurt somebody because you want to protect yourself. So those are situations where there's no choice. And as we've discussed over and over again, the healthiest resolution usually involves the repair. So you change your behavior, you make amends, you apologize, and you put your commitment truly into acting differently and staying aligned with what your true values are. So in this case, when you do that, it doesn't only reduce the discomfort and the dissonance you're feeling, but it also strengthens your true integrity. So because you aligned yourself with your core values, it makes you feel proud of yourselves and gives you a sense of being your true self. So this is really important to do in these cases. Sorry. So across all these areas that we've discussed with relationships, work, lifestyle, and morality, the pattern, as you can see, is the same. Dissonance arises when what we believe in doesn't match with what we do. Prachi says, I feel like I don't live in the present. Overthinking can be a prime example of cognitive dissonance, because you're constantly thinking about your behavior, what you did, what you said, and how you could have changed it. So it does come under it. Right. So now that we have discussed how it impacts the different areas of life, we've still not talked a little bit about what causes the dissonance, right? So let's go into that now. There are four main areas or factors that you can say that cause cognitive dissonance. Core beliefs are, let's look at core beliefs and actions first, sorry. Core beliefs are guiding principles that we hold ourselves and the world around. They're like our inner compass, telling us what's right, what's wrong, and how we want to live. But sometimes, as we're discussing, our actions don't follow that inner compass. And when that happens, we experience cognitive dissonance. So let's look at some examples again. Where you believe in honesty but tell a lie, the brain it immediately senses the contradiction. Or where you believe in kindness but you lose your temper and then you shout at somebody and then you start feeling guilty. And as we've been looking at, you think that health is important, but you eat junk food every day and then you feel regret or shame. So as we've been discussing, that cognitive dissonance is about the two voices in your head in conflict with each other. One says, this is who I am and what I believe. The other says, but look what you just did. It did not align with what you believe. And this inner clash continues to create discomfort, sometimes small, like unease or doubt, but sometimes it's really big, like guilt, shame, or questioning your identity, like we discussed before. See, the thing is, dissonance is so powerful because it pushes us to either grow, adjust, or sometimes rationalize in ways that keep us comfortable. So you have to kind of see that you're making a change yourself and bringing you from an area of discomfort and psychological stress to bringing you somewhere where you're feeling normal and feeling a little bit better. Another cause of this is influence of the culture and society. From the moment that we are born, society always gives us a set of rules. It's almost like a script we are expected to follow. Some of it might look like be successful, get married by a certain age, have children, always be polite, agreeable, and respectful. But even though these expectations aren't always bad, it's not bad to be polite or respectful, and they do guide us and give us structure and also create belonging for us. But the problem then here comes if the script doesn't fit who you are. So, one example can be you value freedom and creativity, but your culture constantly tells you to choose a stable traditional career, or where you believe in personal happiness over wealth, but society only praises you if you get financial success. And a prime example that we see in our culture is when you don't feel ready for marriage, but everyone around you is pressuring you to get married and asking you constantly, why aren't you settling down? So when our inner truth and society's expectation don't match, that's when the dissonance show up. It feels like you're torn between your true self or by being accepted by others. And as I keep saying, this tension is quite powerful because belonging is a deep human need. Many people end up going along with society's script just to avoid standing out or disappointing others, right? So that's why culture and society can be one of the strongest forces that push us into dissonance, because the pressure to fit in can sometimes silence our own values. Based on that only, the fear of judgment and desire for harmony also become a cause of dissonance in our lives as they go hand in hand. Like I said before, at the core, most of us just want to belong. We want to be liked, respected, and accepted. Nobody wants to stand out or be the person that people in their life disapprove of. So, what we do is we hold back our true opinions to avoid disagreement with people, or when we say yes when we don't want to. And in situations where we really want to say no, we still agree, like taking on extra work we can't handle or agreeing to social plans when we rather just stay home and rest. It becomes important that we follow along with the group, even if we don't fully agree, just so we are not the ones that are left behind. On the surface, this seems a little fake, right? Because it might look like harmony and things are smooth, no fights, no drama. And people may even praise us for being easygoing or cooperative. But inside, we can feel the tension rising because we know we are betraying our own needs and beliefs. It's also about sometimes choosing peace on the outside at the cost of peace on the inside. And while it works in short term, in the long term, it starts draining your energy, affects your confidence, and even damage the relationships you have because you're not being completely authentic. The fear of judgment and desire of harmony are powerful drivers of dissonance because of that. They push us to sacrifice the alignment with ourselves just so that we get accepted by others around us. So, if we bring this all together now, cognitive dissonance often stems from three key sources. First, when our belief and actions clash, when we say one thing and do another. Second is when society's expectations push us into choices that truly don't reflect our values or the ones that we want to make. And lastly, when the fear of judgment silence our authentic selves and we prioritize external harmony over our internal truth. In these cases, this discussion is really important because dissonance isn't just an uncomfortable feeling to get rid of. It's actually kind of a signal. It's like an internal alarm bell that goes, wait a second, something isn't matching up. What just happened? The signal is very valuable, though. It makes you pause and ask, am I living according to my own values or someone else's? Are my daily actions reflecting who I really want to be? Or am I choosing short term peace with others over long term peace within myself? So, the purpose of this workshop is to kind of bring your attention to it. So, when that signal goes off in you, you're able to pay it attention. You can unlock the chance to reflect, realign, and make changes, whether that means adjusting your actions, re-evaluating your beliefs, or simply being braver in expressing who you truly are. So if you're taking away one thing here, you should that cognitive dissonance isn't just discomfort, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to grow, to align, and to live more authentically and kind of live in a peaceful way in your own mind, I think is the best example to give here. So let's just take a quick ad break. Like those moments in YouTube when a quick ad pops up, we also have one for you. It will be really quick and will be super beneficial for you. So let's talk a little bit about what one-on-one counseling is. It's a personalized, confidential chat between you and a trained therapist. Imagine having someone who really listens, understands you, and helps you figure things out. What are some benefits you might get? There's personal growth, solving problems, setting goals, and boosting your mental well being. It's like having a personal coach for your mind, which is kind of important because we're having this discussion about our mind today. And what would be some benefits if you choose MindTribe here with us? We can also kind of burst some of the myths that we have about counseling. It's not for only those who are unwell. Counseling is for anyone wanting to be their better self. So you can work on getting better relationships, improve your interpersonal relationships as well. A spot in your dream job or college, counseling can help with all of that. It's about making the best version of you. So choosing MindTribe will help because our counselors here are super talented. We are also affordable with the sessions ranging starting from $249 to ranging to $2,400. And once you're comfortable, you can also choose from our affordable packages, empowering. We want to empower your mind so you can transform your life for the better. And if you have any urgent questions, you can ask now or at the end of the presentation about one-on-one counseling. You can visit our website and see all the counselor profiles and book a session if you want. So before we move forward, we'll just take a quick break. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, let's move forward then. So we've discussed a lot about what cognitive dissonance is, what it looks like, what causes it, the impacts we have. So let's kind of quickly test what we've understood. I'll ask if there will be statements coming up and you need to just answer true or false in the chat box, or you can just send a thumbs up or a thumbs down relating to the same. If you don't want to answer, it's fine. Even if you answer it wrong, it's okay. We're here to learn together. So here we go. The first is cognitive dissonance occurs when a person's actions contradicts their beliefs or values. True or false? See a lot of truths. True. That is correct. Good job, everybody. Next, we have people experiencing cognitive dissonance are not likely to change their beliefs to align with their actions. True or false? Thumbs down, one thumb up, thumbs down. Oh, conflicting answers here. It's false. People who do start feeling a lot of discomfort do move into changing their behaviors and beliefs so that they are aligned with each other and the dissonance decreases. And then the last one. Cognitive dissonance can lead to feelings of guilt or discomfort when one's actions conflict with their beliefs. I see true, all thumbs up. Jasleen says true. That's correct. It's true. Good job, everybody. You're getting the hang of cognitive dissonance really well. I'm so glad. So now that we've seen that we are understanding it, let's do a really quick case study as well, where we identify the dissonance. So which two values in this case study is in conflict here? A young Indian woman who wants to pursue a career but faces pressure to marry early. So, what do you think are the two things in her mind that are fighting each other here? Yes, Kamini, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I guess the societal pressures and her feelings or core values, and she's obliged to marry early for no reasons,
Mm-hmm.
although she's not mentally and physically prepared. And just the fear of judgment and desire of
Mm-hmm.
harmony would be the exact answer for this, I guess.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Kamvi. That's correct. Good on you for also including the harmony and the peacekeeping part as well. So the desire. Oh, sorry. So the desire for growth and freedom that she wants clashes with societal and family expectations rooted in tradition, gender roles, and culture norms. Angeline says her belief versus culture and society. Yes, that's correct. You guys have it spot on. Good job. So now let's look into what are some of the signs or symptoms that you're going through cognitive dissonance so you're able to identify it better. There are three main areas that we'll look into today that signs of cognitive dissonance show up in within us. So one's behavioral, physical, and then emotional. So we'll go one by one and discuss them. First, behavioral signs. What are the observable actions or habits that you're able to see? So the people who are going through this, when they're experiencing their inner conflict, this is how it shows up. There's denial, where sometimes instead of facing the discomfort, people simply deny that there's a problem. It's easier to pretend in these situations that everything is fine rather than confront that you're doing something contradictory. There's also avoidance, where others may avoid situations, peoples, or topics that remind them of the conflict that's going on in their life. So, for example, someone who feels guilty about smoking might avoid the whole conversation about their health or quitting smoking. There's also procrastination, where it can make you put things off. You delay decisions or actions because facing them would mean dealing with the uncomfortable truth. That happens a lot in work environments where you don't want to do the task because you know if you do the task at this job, it's going against your core values. There's also impulsivity, because in on the flip side, some people might want to make quick rash choices just to escape the tension they're going to be in. So even if those choices aren't really well mapped out. There's also rationalization, as we've discussed before, which is very common. People come up with excuses or they try and justify their behavior. For instance, people, like we discussed when it comes to health, can say, I don't exercise because I don't have time, when the real reason is the discomfort about not exercising but having a healthy value to life is in conflict. This also sometimes presents itself as overcompensation. So people might overcorrect. You'd see yourself going into extremes in other area of your life to make up for the conflict that you're feeling. So this, for example, here is someone feeling guilty about lying may suddenly become overly honest in unrelated situations. So you're like, at least I'm following my beliefs or the core values I have in one part of my life, even if that's not the part that is causing you the distress or the conflict. As we discussed, these behaviors are signals. They tell us that a person might be struggling internally, even if they don't want to say it out loud. Kanvi says being busy instead of productive. Yes, the avoidance comes in. You're trying to do something constantly, so your brain's not thinking about the discomfort that you might be going through. Then we have the physical signs. Physical signs talk about the way your body reacts that you are under stress. So here, as we know that our mind and body are deeply connected. So some of the ways that the stress shows up are headaches, which is one of the most common symptoms of cognitive dissonance, because there's constant tension in your head. So it creates muscle tightness and you get stress headaches. Stress headaches are the ones that you can feel that start at the back of your head, on the top of your neck. So it's not like the front or the top of your head's hurting, but it's just the back end of the head that you're feeling the pain in. Those are stress headaches. This happens because your brain is overworking, so the muscles tighten. It also results in insomnia because your thoughts are racing and are conflicted. Sleep is often the first thing that gets disruptive because you find yourself awake at 3 a.m. still thinking about it, unable to switch off. Somebody shared that they live in their past. That's one of the examples. You're constantly thinking about things that have been. There's also fatigue because even you're not sleeping, you're constantly thinking, so you're feeling exhausted throughout the day. You're not even able to get the rest you need. There's tightness in the chest and stomach, as we discussed, because the muscles are tightening because you're so stressed that it starts hurting. There's a lot of restlessness because you're not able to concentrate, you don't know what's going on. There's also appetite changes. All of these result in you not feeling too great. And when you're not feeling too great, we don't really feel hungry, right? So you don't even want to eat anything. And this is discussing the physical signs are important because this shows that the stress and dissonance doesn't just stay in our mind. They start manifesting in our body. So when we pay attention to these signs in our body, we're able to kind of start thinking, hey, what's going on here? Why am I feeling this? And then you can kind of discover which beliefs are in conflict and where the dissonance is coming from. Then the last one is emotional signs. So these are feelings that arise due to the inner conflict. Here we have anxiety, where the constant sense of worry is there. There's a lot of unease because you're restless, and in a negative way, it causes a lot of negative energy in your body. Your mind is constantly anticipating the worst, even when nothing's happening. You're waiting that, oh, someone's going to figure out what I'm doing. And then the peace and harmony and the sense of belonging might not work because you might be outed for your actions that aren't what you truly believe in. And then it leads to frustration as well because they're the things that aren't aligning with your expectations or values. And then you feel stuck and irritated, like constantly hitting a wall. The frustration builds the tension both mentally and physically. Another thing that we have discussed again and again is guilt. This emotion appears when we feel like we have gone against our values, beliefs, and responsibilities. So when you say one thing, but you do another while you're doing the other thing, you know that this is not what you really want to do. So you feel guilty, especially if it goes against your core beliefs. And if a lot of guilt is there, shame's going to also be there. They go hand in hand. But the shame is more deeper. It's not just about the action that you did, but it's about who you are. So it can make someone feel unworthy or not good enough. And it often pushes people to hiding their true feelings and then continue in the situation that's causing the shame in the first place. So the stress and all these signs help us recognize that there is something wrong. And being able to recognize this and identify this can then help us in the first step to processing the emotions instead of letting them build slowly and silently and make all the other symptoms get worse. So that's why looking out for these signs are really important here. So since we've talked about how it looks in us, there are a lot of negative reactions. All of the things we discussed were negative reactions to cognitive dissonance, right? So we'll go into talking about the techniques now that are healthier and sustainable that might help us resolve our cognitive dissonance. So these are some of the strategies we'll look into today. They're divided into two parts. So journaling, reevaluating beliefs, modifying action, and seeking help come in the long-term techniques. So these are the techniques that take longer time to implement. They need a lot of effort, emotional strength, but the results that come out of these ones are long-lasting. So you're able to hopefully resolve the cognitive dissonance towards the end of this. And then one, minimizing and justifying, that comes in the short-term one. So something that can give you relief in the moment. So you feel a little bit more steady and emotionally stable to be able to kind of choose to go into the long-term ones, if that makes sense. So let's look at reevaluating beliefs first. This is one of the long-term ones. So What it really means is slowing down and asking yourself some tough but honest questions. Do my beliefs still represent who I truly am today? Or are these beliefs something that I absorbed from my parents, culture, religion, and society expectations without really questioning them? So you'd realize I've always believed I need to have a high paying job to be respected. But when I think about it, the belief didn't come from me. It came from the messages from my family growing up. So when you stop and questions these kind of beliefs, you sometimes discover that you've been carrying out expectations that actually don't align with your own core beliefs. And doing this helps because when your beliefs evolve and come into align with your present day values and the goals that you want out of your life, you're freeing yourself from unnecessary pressure. So you're not living with an outdated script, you're writing your own and making your own goals and the way you want your life to look like. But don't take this as an invitation to throw away all the beliefs you've ever inherited. It's about choosing the ones that you still align with or still believe in. So if you're being taught to be respectful and honest, and that's something you still want today, you could keep those beliefs in your life. But it's about the one that causes you discomfort. So reevaluating beliefs in a way, it's kind of like updating your internal operating system. It allows you to grow into the person who you truly want to be and not just the person others expect you to be. Then if we look into modifying actions, which is also a long-term one, is about taking a hard look at your daily choices and asking, are my behaviors aligned with what I say I believe? So for instance, you may say, health is really important to me, but if your actions look like you're skipping meals, never really moving your body, not doing exercise, there's a gap between what you value and what you're actually doing. And then this gap is what gives rise to the dissonance. So how do we go about changing that? That is by adjusting our behavior. So if you value health, that could mean you can start cooking more balanced meals, drinking enough water, or setting aside time for exercise. As an example that we've been discussing throughout this presentation, if you value honesty, it could mean practicing truthfulness, even when it's a bit uncomfortable for you. And if you value relationships, it could mean that you can putting your phone away and being fully present with your loved one because you want to put more value into having positive relationships. So changing behaviors helps because every time you change your actions and it lines up with your values, you feel more authentic to yourself and you feel like your self-esteem is rising because you're being true to who you are. And the nagging in a conflict that you're feeling starts to ease, so you feel better overall anyway. And this kind of results into your inner voice and your outer life matching up. So the fight between the value and the action ceases, and you kind of feel a sense of, I would say, integrity and peace with yourself. So modifying actions is essentially saying, if this is what I believe, I'm going to live it out. And that simple shift can create an powerful feeling in yourself and can reduce the cognitive dissonance you're feeling. There's also journaling. So when it comes down to journaling, it's about simply practicing writing down your thoughts, emotions, experiences on paper. So you can do a kind of he said, she said, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to write it as if someone's going to read it, but just be honest with yourself. So when you're writing all your experiences out like that, you're able to identify where the dissonance is coming from. So one example of the thing that you can write about is, why do I feel bad about this decision? What is it that is causing the discomfort? Am I acting out of fear? Am I acting out in a way that I want to adjust with society, or out of the true values I actually have? And one of the main big ones here is, what do I really believe about the situation? Do I 100% believe that I want to put my work and my energy in something that I don't even believe in? And by exploring these questions, when you're writing it all out, you're also able to see the conflict more clearly. So instead of the what is happening to me, or why is this happening, is it this, the overthinking that you're having, the messy storm of thoughts that is swirling in your head, can slow down a little bit because you're able to notice themes and triggers, and more importantly, repeating patterns. So, why does it help to declutter your mind like this? Once the thoughts are on paper, your mind automatically feels lighter. It also encourages self awareness within yourself. You're able to notice where your actions and values don't line up. And it also reveals patterns over time. So, when you look back at the entries you've made, you will see the real sources of dissonance that keep showing up. And then you can target that area into how you want to reduce it. Journaling is often like shining a flashlight into the corners of your mind. Suddenly, what feels overwhelming becomes understandable, and once it's understandable, like I said, it becomes changeable. So, journaling is just not about writing, it's about expressing yourself in a way that gives you emotional insight, encourages self reflection, and it truly changes the way you look at things. So, the alignment with who you truly are is long term. Then next we have seeking help, which is also long term, because sometimes the inner conflicts may feel too heavy to untangle on your own because you're living it day by day. So when you reach out to a therapist, a mentor, or a trusted friend, it can make all the difference. It's about having someone on the outside who can listen to what you're feeling without the judgment. They can ask the right questions, help you see the bigger picture. If you go for therapy, it can also act like a mirror reflecting back to you what you might not notice in yourself because your emotions are so heightened. I'll give an example here. So let's say you feel torn between your family's expectation and your personal dreams, right? But you also want to honor your family, and you also want to be on the path that you want to go on. So the tug of war is creating the dissonance. So if you work with a therapist, it gives you a safe place to safely and honestly explore these feelings. You can weigh your options and then make decisions that respect both your relationship with your parents and your authentic self. It also provides you encouragement. Sometimes you might have the fear, you might understand that what needs to be done, but you're scared to do it. So when somebody positively supports you and understands what you're going through, it also gives you the confidence for not feeling wrong, for feeling conflicted, and the change might come. It is also you can like ask for we can discuss practical strategies. So it's a tool for communicating, setting boundaries, or making the value-based choices that you need to make. So in this example, especially, seeking help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. It says that you don't have to navigate the conflict alone. You're able to recognize that something is happening in your life that's making you not be your true self, and the shared journey that you'll go on will lead to clarity, healing, and stronger alignment of being your true self. So I also mentioned a short-term strategy, and you usually sometimes do this without even realizing that you're doing it. It's about convincing ourselves that the conflict isn't really that important, or you can come up with reasons that make your actions seem acceptable. It's our brain's way to quickly fix the discomfort that it knows is about to arise. So some of the examples you might hear is, it's just a little lie, no one's getting hurt. Everyone keeps skipping exercise sometimes. If I do it, it's fine. And then I only did it because I was under immense pressure. These kind of examples shows that in that moment when you give the justification, it helps you feel better. It shrinks the size and the level of the discomfort that you're feeling, the conflict, sorry, not discomfort, the conflict that you're feeling, so it doesn't seem as overwhelming or as powerful. It provides us with immediate emotional relief. So it's like putting a band-aid on a cut. It helps cover up the pain, it calms the discomfort, and lets you move forward without being weighed down by the guilt that you're feeling. But why wasn't the short-term example first? Because it only works in the short term. The root issue is still there. If you keep minimizing or justifying without addressing the real conflict, the dissonance will keep returning, sometimes even stronger. Over time, this can also kind of pile up to give you bigger stress, experience more guilt, it can go into shame, and then it can also become a habit that you start ignoring your values. So while doing these short-term things help in a temporary comfort, it's not the long-term solution. So you can use this in the moment to kind of ease your pain, but then decide more about how much you want to put your time and effort into going and doing the long-term techniques that we discussed. Is minimizing justifying healthy? Even sometimes I face an in the moment, if it's causing you a lot of stress, yes it is, because if you're not going to do something to help you kind of immediately feel a little bit better, you will keep spiraling and getting more and more guilty or more and more panicked, and then that does not give you enough space or clarity to even think like, oh yeah, maybe I should do something long term. So to be able to be in a safe and calm enough state of mind to even decide to do the long term techniques, the short term one kind of helps you ride the panic a little bit, if that makes sense. So here we can see that you can reduce dissonance in different ways. Short-term fixes may give quick relief, but then as we've discussed, true harmony comes from the long-term approaches. So if those are the ones that you start putting little effort in, the results that will come towards the end would be something that lasts you for a longer time. Okay, so let's quickly do a mindful activity now as we're coming towards the end. Before we get into it, let me just quickly explain what mindfulness is. So, mindfulness means just paying attention to what you're thinking and feeling in the moment without judging it or trying to change it right away. And then let's quickly again see what cognitive dissonance is, which is the uncomfortable feeling that we feel when our actions and beliefs don't match. So I'll give you guys a minute if you want to go along with the activity. You can sit up straight, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and then we'll start in just a second. Yes, Prachi, you're correct. It's really hard to judge thought without changing. But if you start practicing mindfulness, that's what it encourages. It just encourages you to sit in the thought, feel the thought. In that moment, you don't worry about what you need to do to change it, but just sit there and feel it. So you can practice as we go through the steps of the activity. You can see if you want to practice it as we go along, and if there's a bit of a shift in how you sit with the thought. Okay. So deep breath, everybody. And here we go. So the first step of the mindful activity is to notice the discomfort that you're feeling. So you kind of pay attention to why you're feeling uncomfortable right now, what's going on, why is there a sense of stress or restlessness that you're feeling. So you're just observing yourself in a way that, why am I feeling discomfort? That's it. We're just observing. We're not thinking about anything else. So now that we have paid attention to the discomforting feeling, knowing that you're a little uncomfortable, we should name this conflict now. So here you need to ask yourself, what do I believe? Or what it is that I did or am I doing right now that doesn't match that? You're believing in honesty, but you told somebody a lie to avoid conflict, and that's why you're feeling a bit weird. What is it? We're not saying it's bad, there's no blaming. We're just trying to notice what's going on and naming the conflict. So now that we have named the conflict, we've kind of seen what's going on, we're just going to sit for a minute and just feel it. Just breathe in and out and let yourself feel a little bit discomfortable. It's fine. We're here to do that. We're not judging the feeling, we're just here to feel it. We let our brain stop reacting automatically, but we'll just let ourselves feel that we are in discomfort. Now that we have let the discomfort being felt and just let it have its moment, now let's ask ourselves what matters most here. What is that you really care about? What is one small thing that you can do that might make the discomfort go away? A very small thing. It doesn't have to be a big change. And then the last step is to take a small, honest step. So just one quick, small step that is takes you closer to your values. It doesn't have to be a big fix. It can be this can be apologizing. This can be setting a new intention, changing one small part of your behavior, or even simply accepting that, yeah, okay, I'm going through cognitive dissonance, but I'm learning. I'm trying to pay attention to why it's happening, and I'm also trying to see how I can change it. Okay, now coming back to this space where we have just felt a little bit of the discomfort, giving name to what the conflict might be, just trying to focus on what you might care about more and how you might take a small step in going towards what you care about more. So, whenever you're doing any form of mindfulness exercise, just remember this phrase, which is about noticing something, naming it, feeling it, letting it have its moment, and then choose what you want to do next. So, coming towards the end of our workshop today, let's quickly go through the key learnings. So, what did we learn today about cognitive dissonance? We learned what it is, the mental discomfort, that we feel when our actions don't match or align with the beliefs or values that we hold. Then we looked into what areas in our life it shows up in. So, relationship, work, lifestyle, ethics, morality, and how culture impacts it. We also spoke about why it feels uncomfort when it comes. So it's intensified by cultural expectations, the fear of judgment, and the desire we all have for harmony and trying to fit into the world we are living in. And lastly, how we reduce it. So we went through long term and short term strategies. We looked at the ones that require more effort, more of our attention, but the effects that they have are more long term. But we also looked at the short term ones, which might not help in the long run, but are important to kind of make you feel a little bit of comfort and a little bit of giving you a little bit of emotional stability in the moment where the discomfort and the panic that you're feeling because of the dissonance is very high. We also discussed why seeking one-on-one therapy might help. So if you'd be interested in doing that in MindTribe, Ahil and I will share our profiles in the group after this as well. So you can book a session with us, or you can also look at the different counselors we have here at MindTribe. I would also share the steps of the mindfulness activity in the group as well. So if it's something that you want to keep practicing after this and help identify or ease your dissonance, I hope that helps you as well. So before we say goodbye, just a quick quote that dissonance isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your values matter. The goal here is not just to reduce the discomfort that you're feeling, but also to make choices that align with who you truly are. And that's all for today. Thank you, everybody, for coming here, paying attention, being mindful and respectful throughout the session. I hope that you're able to learn something new and take away something that might help ease your own cognitive dissonances in the future, and that you're also able to identify why it's happening and how to change it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, please feel free to leave. Thank you.